Hi everybody. Today I want to bring you a rogue deck that I've been working on for the Worlds 2006 format. It's a spread deck based around using Jolteon EX and then just resetting it as much as possible. So let's just jump right on into the deck. Starting off, we play with 4 EVs. For our initial setup Pokemon, it's actually really good with the Call for Family attack, letting us grab either an additional EV, Porygon, Jirachi, and Minim, all based on what the situation is. Next up, we play 4 Jolteon EX. This is the heart of the deck, and the main point is to spread with Evolutionary Thunder, which does 10 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. In the 2006 format in particular, it's very common for decks just to fill their board, whether it's Dragtrode, LBS, Nidoqueen. Just about every deck in the format requires having a really large bench, so in almost every matchup, we should be getting max value out of Evolutionary Thunder. Its first attack, Second Bite, also has a lot of synergy with the power, which does 20 damage plus 10 more damage for each damage counter on the defending Pokemon. So once we get a couple of different Jolteons off, it's really easy for Second Bite to do massive amounts of damage. Next up, we play 1 Umbreon EX. Umbreon is great to bring up something to stall like a Jirachi or a Pidgeot and lock it in place while we're resetting our Jolteons, or in certain matchups like LBS in particular, it's great to bring up their one big threat and just knock it out straight away. Next up, we play 1 Espeon EX. Espeon lets us de-evolve one of our opponent's bench Pokemon. There's a lot of synergy there with Jolteon, where if we're getting multiple Evolutionary Thunders off, it's very common where we can use a Devo Flash just to take a free prize. Its first attack, Snaptail, also gives some additional synergy, doing 30 damage to any of our opponent's Pokemon. Once again, combined with Evolutionary Thunder, we can use it to set up some pretty nice knockouts. Next up, I play a 2-2 Porygon 2-line as our consistency for the deck. I did test Pidgeot in the deck, but devoting, 3 spots, or playing a 2-1-2 or a 3-2-3 along with rare candies ended up being a lot of room. So, especially for just a stage 1 deck, I found that just a 2-2 Porygon 2 with backup served as just enough consistency with the deck without taking up too much space. Next up, we play 2 copies of Jirachi. I found at the start of the game, there really isn't anything I want in the active spot, so it's really nice just to hide behind a Jirachi and use Wishing Star to set up, and then let our opponents go aggressive, taking that first knockout. Next up, I play 1 Minim, for 2 reasons, actually. The first attack, Sniff Out, has a lot of synergy with the deck, being able to grab cards like another Jolteon EX out of the discard, a Surprise Time Machine, a Super Scoop Up. Essentially, Sniff Out should equal 1 additional Jolteon spread. Its second attack, Negative Spark, does 20 damage to each of our opponent's Pokemon that has any Pokebodies. In a format like this with Mewlock, Mew EX, or Rocklock, there's just a lot of big Pokédex in the format that play a lot of Pokebodies, so doing that 20 damage to multiple Pokemon on your opponent's side of the field can add up really quickly, and it can help us get some magic numbers we want to get knockouts. Next up, we play 1 Holon's Voltorb and 1 Holon's Electrode. We play a pretty scarce energy lineup for the deck, and I like to play Holon's Voltorb or Holon's Magnemite in a deck where I'm able to search it out with cards like Holon Mentor, and I run enough basics in the deck I feel comfortable that I'm not going to open with it. I went with the Holon's Voltorb because we play Lightning Energy, so we can actually use the Thunder Shock attack in an absolute pinch. Next up, Holon's Electrode. Once again, we played Holon's Electrode over the Holon's Magneton because in incredibly rare situations, you can evolve the Voltorb and actually use Dazzle Blast. I've never actually done it in the game, but statistically, it's a slightly better play. Next up, for the trainers, we play 4 Holon Transceivers, 2 Holon Mentor, 1 Holon Scientist, and then 1 Holon Adventure to round out our Holon Engine. I did test 3 Holon Mentor in the deck, but between Eevee's Call for Family and then Jirachi's Wishing Star, I was pretty consistently setting up my bench, so the 3rd Mentor spot just didn't warrant it. Next up, we play 4 Rockets Admin. I noticed at the time a lot of decks played 1, maybe 2 Rockets Admin, 3 situationally, but when I went back through and I really started rebuilding the format and trying to optimize a lot of decks, I found that 4 Rocket Admin is essential for most of the decks in the format. This is just my personal belief, my personal preference, but the card really is that good. Next up, we play Surprise Time Machine, which lets us take one of our evolutions, put it back in the deck, and then choose another evolution to replace it. The great thing about Pokemon is that when the deck is not public knowledge, so when you do something like Surprise Time Machine, we can send Jolteon EX back into the deck, and then instead of grabbing another evolutions, we can just fail the search. And even though me and the opponent both know there's an evolution in the deck forgets. So, say for example, you go Eevee, Jolteon EX, put the 10 damage, Surprise Time Machine, shuffle the Jolteon back in, and then just leave the Eevee. Now, we can't evolve that same Eevee this turn, but we can evolve it again on the next turn. So essentially, each Surprise Time Machine in the deck should equal one Evolutionary Thunder. Next up, we play 4 Super Scoop Up, once again just to help us reset the Jolteons. So between playing 4 Jolteon EX, 4 Surprise Time Machine, 4 Super Scoop Up, and then Minim, we should be able to get off. Statistically, you could get off 12, 13, 14 Jolteons. Realistically, I would say pretty consistently I'm getting 6 or 7 Jolteons off a game. Which against a lot of the decks in the format, you start taking really easy prizes at that point. Next up, I play 3 Professor Elm's Training Method. I played Professor Elm's just because I wanted to be able to easily search out that Jolteon whenever possible. Between the 4 Jolteon, the 3 Elms, it gives us 7 outs to find the Jolteon. On top of that, we can also grab Umbreon, Espeon, or the Porygon 2. Next up, I play 3 Power Tree. In this format, Desert Ruins, Battle Frontier, and Cursed Stone are all extremely popular, and they all cause different levels of problems for the deck. I think for most decks in this format, it's important to play at least 4 stadiums. I went with Power Tree because of our scarce energy lineup. Being able to get the energy out of the discard pile is actually really strong. It gives us a little bit more flexibility and lets me get away with that thin energy lineup. Next up, I play 3 Steven's Advice. Like I talked about before, a lot of decks in the format really like to fill their bench. And there's some synergy here with Porygon 2 and backup. So you can back up to 6, and then you can Steven's Advice typically for another 5 or 6 cards. This means over the course of a turn, you can see 11 cards. Next up, we play 1 Celio's Network. Celio's Network, I went with 3 Elms and 1 Celio's because I wanted to be able to search the EXs out. But I also wanted a little bit of options there, so I would be able to search out Porygon, Jirachi, Minim, and a Pinch. And then there's going to be always some crossovers with Porygon 2 and Holen's Electrode you can get with either. Next up, I play 1 copy of Space Center. I went with 1 copy of Space Center to be able to shut off Lunarock, the Lunatone Soul Rock combo, which will shut off your Porygon 2, and then let you use backup in that situation. I also wanted to be able to bump Power Tree in the LBS matchup in particular, where if it was getting into a close game, I could actually replace my Power Tree or their Power Tree with Space Center, and then admin them to a low hand size where hopefully they wouldn't be able to draw back out of it. Next up, I play 1 Warp Point. Warp Point is great to get Jirachi out of the active spot, to get away from special conditions, or there's also some synergy with Warp Point and Espeon EX, where you can hit your opponent's active Pokemon, and then on the following turn, you can play Warp Point and then use Espeon EX to de-evolve it, hopefully taking a free prize along the way there. Next up, we play 1 Pokemon Retriever. 1 Pokemon Retriever, it either lets you put 1 basic Pokemon or evolution card into your hand, or you shuffle 3 back into the deck. It just gives us a lot of different options with the deck. Say an Eevee got knocked out early, let us grab it back. Or in certain cases where, let's say, a Jolteon line got knocked out, we can send the entire line back to the deck and then just get 1 more Evolutionary Thunder off based off that. So next up, we play 7 Lightning Energy. I played Lightning Energy, obviously for Jolteon, the second bite. And then 1 Psychic Energy for the Espeon EX in rare situations where you got to use Psychic Loop to look for major damage. I went with 7 Lightning and then 1 Psychic just because Jolteon and Second Bite are always going to be the main focus of the deck. That 1 Psychic might seem a little off, or it might seem really hard to get it when you need it, but thanks to playing 3 Power Trees, it gives me a little bit more freedom there, and it's a little bit easier to find than it might seem. Alright, well that pretty much wraps up the deck. Let's just go ahead and jump right into a gameplay and see how we do. Alright, so it looks like a pretty good opening for us with that EV start. The Celios and Elms give us a few possibilities. We can either Celios for a Jirachi, retreat the EV, and then just try to set up behind Wishing Star, or we can Celios or Elms for a Porygon 2 and then call for family for the Porygon, looking for a solid turn 2 backup. Topping the Jolteon, I think, makes this play a lot clearer. Probably going to go ahead Celios for the Porygon 2. Celios is a little safer here, just in case we did randomly prize both Porygon 2s. We could just grab the Jirachi instead. Looks like Xander threw down a Larvitar, though, so this is most likely going to be a Bombtar deck we're playing against. Yep, and we make the call for family play to search out the Porygon. Xander's turn, go ahead, plays the Hole on Mentor. We could be in a little bit of trouble here if he has the Lunatone Solrock combo. We were banking pretty hard on that Porygon 2 play here, but it looks like we did catch a break and he did prize that Solrock. Grabs another Larvitar and Voltorb along with that Lunatone. Over the course of the game, that Lunatone just sitting there could be an issue for him if we can get enough Evolutionary Thunders off. Alright, so we top the EV. Good solid top from us here. Attach your energy to the EV, make the Jolteon play. Start the spread, play the Power Tree. Looking for a pretty solid backup here. Okay, we drew another Jolteon off the backup. That's going to be really nice for us. Xander's turn. Plays the Dark Tyranitar. Plays a Lass. So he is threatening the Electrode EX. The advantage that we have, though, is he really doesn't have much energy in the discard pile or in play. So he can't really make any sort of strong plays quite yet. Goes ahead, just attaches the Dark Energy to the Dark Tyranitar. Our setup here is pretty strong. We are going to be looking to get some more EVs in play really quickly. And that's one thing I did forget to mention. Always check your EVs on your first search through the deck. Okay, he goes ahead, uses Wishing Star. She's now asleep. Plays a Hole on Transceiver. Alright, he does grab the Adventure here. He evolves the Voltorb into Electrode EX, and this is going to open up some interesting plays for us. We searched, and we know the Umbreon is in the deck here. Go to play Surprise Time Machine. Send the Jolteon back. Don't grab anything. Bring up the Umbreon. Retreat the Eevee. Grab the energy back with Power Tree. Bring up the Electrode. And we're just going to lock this Electrode EX active. Black Cry is going to stop him from being able to use extra Energy Bomb. He will be able to, or he could possibly power it up and use Crush and Burn, but that seems like such a... I don't know, it just doesn't really seem like that strong of a play, especially when he's going to lose the Electrode EX anyways, and most of the energy you'd have him play to get any sort of actual damage off with Crush and Burn. Touch another Dark Energy to the Dark Tyranitar. I'm gambling pretty hard here. He doesn't have a way to get the Electrode out of the active spot, but I think this is just the strongest play. So I have a couple different things that I have to figure out here, and that's basically how heavily I want to try to knock out the Electrode EX coming into my turn. And it's going to depend on how many Jolteon EX or how many Jolteon X I feel I can loop. We can go ahead and just Black Cry here for 20. Two EVs in play, that gives us quite a few possibilities. Both Dark Tyranitars evolved up through the stage 1s though, so we don't really have any Espeon plays possible. Alright. Xander played Adventure, drew the 3 cards. I feel like if he had an answer to get that Electrode out of the active spot, he would just slap that down. That would just be like an instant play. Spends a lot of time thinking here, so I really don't think he has the out. Nope, and he doesn't. This is where we kind of have to make a decision, how heavily we want to go in on that Black Cry play. If we want to knock it out this turn, or if we just want to save it and wait. We go ahead, we gamble a little bit here, or make the stronger play, and just gamble that he doesn't have the out to it, and he doesn't. He also just slap turns right back to us here, so I'm feeling pretty good he's got a weak hand. Brings up the Dark Tyranitar. We play the Warp Point here. He brings up Jirachi. Considering the fact that he made no plays, he just basically passed his last turn and was not able to actually do anything to get that Electrode EX out of the active spot. I'm willing to gamble he probably can't get the Jirachi out of the active spot with his current hand either. This will also give us some time to catch up with energy on board, just so when he does start going off with those Dark Tyranitar's, we're going to have some outs on attackers so he doesn't run us out of attackers. Go ahead, make the Black Cry, play, back to Xander here. Without having the Lunatone Soul Rock combo, the admins really don't do anything for us because we can just back up right up to 6. We're going all in on this Porygon too. Playing a second Porygon down, knowing that he prizes Soul Rock. I'm feeling pretty confident in this play as long as I can deny him prizes. As soon as he's able to actually take a prize and possibly get that Soul Rock, this could become a little messier for us. Throws down a Scramble. I know at some point in this game I am going to have to fight through a couple of Dark Tyranitars. We just really need to find the Jolteon here to take that prize coming into his turn. Play the Power Tree, drop the energy. Surprise Time Machine. We're just trying to get the best backup possible. 4 Jolteons in the deck, though, we stand a pretty good chance on it. We do hit the Jolteon here. Evolutionary Thunder. We do have to discard the Holen's Electrode to retreat, which is slightly painful. Bring up the Jolteon, do some damage. The play here is, and while our hand does not seem super strong, the idea is that we could get double Jolteons off next turn to knock out the Dark Tyranitar. He does play a Heal Energy. That messes me up a little bit on that play, but at the same time, too, playing the Heal Energy over, say, like a Scramble means that he can't actually bite off to knock out the Jolteon. So since the Jolteon is not knocked out, it's kind of a wash. We'll be able just to second bite here and take a prize. Play the Adventure, get the Jolteon. Hit the Super Scoop Up Heads, second Jolteon, knock out the Lunatone, and then we just second bite here. Knocking out the active Dark Tyranitar, and we actually get around having to fight through that second one. So, hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you haven't done so already, please destroy that like button and subscribe to the channel. I look forward to bringing you more content like this in the future, and I hope to see you in the next video.